Hi guys, Marvin here from shopsadapage.com, and today we're going to test the new AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT with an AMD 5600X processor. So if you have the same processor and you're planning on getting this card, make sure to watch the entire video so that you can have an idea how it will perform. But before we start, please subscribe to this channel so that we can have more opportunities like this to explore other products other than gaming peripherals. I'm actually planning on building a test bench soon so that we can review more PC components. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this idea. But for now, let's check out the AMD 5700 XT. Aside from the usual gaming and synthetic benchmarks, we're also going to test the power draw, thermals, and sound level of this card. There are actually quite some interesting results here that might help you if you're planning to get this card. With that said, let's get into it. Alright guys, so you've already seen the unboxing on our intro. It's pretty straightforward. The packaging is really simple with just the card and some paperwork inside. Now, the first thing you'll notice that's a little different from an AMD reference card is the curved dented design that ideally should help with thermals. I think it looks cool and unique and I don't mind this look at all. In front, we have a Radeon logo and a single blower type fan. At the top side, we have another Radeon logo which has illumination once the card is powered. And then on the other side, we have the 8-pin and 6-pin power ports. At the back, we have this massive backplate that has a very interesting design exposing the chip. Alongside the blower type fan, we also have at the rear end the exhaust with another Radeon logo. Now in terms of the ports, we have 3 DisplayPort 1.4 and 1 HDMI 2.0B. We can also see here the slots for ventilation. Overall, the design of this card is very refreshing compared to previous cards from AMD. Now before we move on to the benchmarks, let's discuss the key features and specifications of the AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT. I'll pop the specifications on the screen so that you can check it out, but what's significant here is the low TDP of 225 watts while providing better performance compared to previous cards from AMD. Another important feature here is the new RDNA architecture, taking advantage of the latest 7nm manufacturing process. The new RDNA architecture looks to focus more on gaming-related tasks rather than other aspects such as artificial intelligence and whatnot. It also focuses more on improving the gap between performance to power consumption thanks to the new efficient 7nm manufacturing process, which is very refreshing to hear from an AMD card. We all know how infamous they are for being power hungry. This new technology also features support for PCI Express 4.0, but at this point, the previous generation 3.0 is still more than sufficient for a graphics card. Now, the 5700 XT also features technology such as image sharpening, which combines contrast adaptive sharpening with GPU upscaling to enhance the image quality in terms of edge sharpness. There's also the Fidelity FX, which is another feature that could improve the visual quality, but it depends on the game if it supports it. We also have the Radeon Anti-Lag, which helps in reducing input lag for an overall better gaming experience. Of course, we have FreeSync support for smoother gameplay on supported monitors. Now, all these key features deserve their own dedicated testing, but for this video, we'll mainly focus on our testing of the AMD 5700 XT with a mid-range 2nd Gen Ryzen 5 2600X processor, and how much improvement will I get upgrading to this from my Zotac 1070 Mini. So with that being said, let's start our benchmarks. So I am currently running an all AMD setup using the MSI B450M motherboard and 16GB of 3200MHz RAM powered by a 620W Seasonic power supply. The results of this benchmark is quite interesting and should be taken into consideration if you're planning on getting this card if you have the same processor as mine. Alright, so for the first 4 games, the 5700 XT performed well and outperformed my Zotac 1070 Mini quite significantly, which is exactly what I was expecting given that the 5700 XT is trying to compete with Nvidia's latest mid-range RTX cards. All gaming benchmarks are an average of 3 runs with identical ambient temperature, and I also made sure that the settings are all the same with each run. So for Apex Legends, which is one of the most popular battle royale game right now, at 1080p resolution, the 5700 XT is way ahead of my Zotac 1070 with an average of 142.83 FPS, and the 1% low is also very good at 116.63 FPS. Bumping the resolution to 1440p, the 5700 XT still performs well at an average frame rate of 109.57 FPS and 77.07 FPS for the 1% low. Now in Rainbow Six Siege, which is a very good team strategy FPS game, at 1080p, the 5700 XT performed great with an average FPS of 244.6 while still having a decent 90.4 FPS at the minimum. At 1440p, the 5700 XT dropped quite a bit with an average FPS of 178.8 but so does the Zotac 1070 at 122.7 FPS. Now for GTA 5, which is kinda dated but still a high-intensive game in terms of graphical resources, the 5700 XT averaged at around 99 FPS with a 45.81% low FPS. Changing the resolution to 1440p, the 5700 XT still performed well with an average of 81.93 FPS but suffered a bit at 1% low with 30.4 FPS. Next, in Battlefield 5, which is one of the recent titles I have, at 1080p, the 5700 XT performed well with an average FPS of 137.4 and the 1% low 74.4 FPS. Going up to 1440p resolution, the 5700 XT still performed quite decently with an average FPS of 110.97 and a decent 1% low of 79.3. Now here's when it becomes more interesting and should be taken into consideration if you're planning on getting this card with the same processor. The next two games I believe are high CPU intensive games or games that highly utilize the CPU for background computations and whatnot. So for Assassin's Creed Origins, one of the high CPU intensive games that I have, at 1080p, the 5700 XT wasn't able to perform as expected because my Ryzen 5 10600X is holding it back. It got an average FPS of 53.27 and a low 1% low of 35.9. Now, bumping the resolution to 1440p helped a bit and lowered the gap compared to my Zotac 1070, but still performed lower than I was expecting. In CSGO, which is another CPU-intensive game, at 1080p, the 5700 XT performed well but is still lower than what I was expecting, especially that it performed lower than my Zotac 1070. The FPS is still high for this game at an average of 197.5, but we should be getting more than this. Turning up the resolution to 1440p again helped close the gap a little bit, but the 5700 XT paired with an AMD Ryzen 5 2600X still underperformed at 192.5 FPS. We should be expecting well over 200 FPS for this particular game. By the way, huge shout out to Boss Mac of back2gaming.com and Sir Ira James of ggwptech.com for guiding me through this benchmark. They actually helped me figure this thing out. I researched about the games that are CPU intensive and it's actually very interesting. My AMD Ryzen 5 2600X is running with both Core Boost Performance and Performance Boost Overdrive and partnered with a 16GB 3200MHz G-Skill Trident C RAM, but it still wasn't able to push the 5700 XT to its full potential. So if you're planning on getting this card, you might want to consider getting a higher tier processor as well to make sure you get the full potential of this card. If you think otherwise with regards to these results, please comment it down below because I am very open to learning even further. Moving on, let's check out some synthetic benchmarks so that you can have an idea how this combination of components will score. In superposition at 1080p high settings, the 5700 XT scored about 11,579 points while getting around 4,814 points at 1080p extreme. You can also check the individual FPS on this chart. Now for 3D Mark x Pi, which is a DirectX 12 benchmark, the 5700 XT scored a total score of 8,076 with a GPU score of 8,480. It's around 36% higher than my Zotac 1070. In TimesPy Extreme on the other hand, which bumps the resolution to 4K, the 5700 XT got a 3,636 total score and 3,821 GPU score, 33% higher than my Zotac 1070. Now in 3D Mark Firestrike, which is a DirectX 11 benchmark, the 5700 XT got a total score of 20,285 with a GPU score of 25,303, which is around 32% higher than my Zotac 1070. In 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, which also bumps the resolution to 4K, and also the test I used for power draw and thermals, which I will show you in a bit, the 5700 XT scored a total of 5,758 with a GPU score of 5,745, 36% better than my Zotac 1070. Speaking of power draw and thermals, let's talk about that. One of the things we know about previous AMD card is that they are known to be power hungry and gets a little bit toasty. For the 5700 XT with the new 7nm manufacturing process, the maximum it got while running 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra is 86 degrees, which I think is pretty decent. The average temperature is also only around 69.7, which is still hotter than my Zotac 1070, but take in mind that what we have here is the blower type reference card. To be honest, while gaming for a longer period more than the usual synthetic benchmark, I sometimes see this card go beyond 86 degrees. Now for the power draw, since I don't have probes and wattmeter yet, I just relied on hardware info while cross-checking with GPU-Z. The 5700 XT with a TDP of 225 watts only drew 188 watts at max during the entire Firestrike Ultra benchmark. And lastly, before we wrap this up, let's check out the sound levels of these cards. Luckily, the decibel meter that I ordered came at just the right time. At idle, both cards are relatively quiet at around 38 to 41 decibels, but at 100% fan speed as expected, with a single fan blower type design, the 5700 XT is super loud at 72.5 decibels, while my Zotac 1070 with two small fans only got up to 59 decibels. I am now quite interested to hear the sound levels and thermals of the AIB cards for the 5700 XT. Now to give you guys an idea how this card sounds, here's a clip for you. Alright guys, I think we're now ready to wrap this up. I feel like there are a lot more details and testing that needs to be done with this card, but for our goal here, the statistics and testing are more than enough. We're able to establish how the 5700 XT will perform alongside the mid-range 2nd Gen AMD Ryzen 5 2600X. Simply put, my system wasn't able to push the card to its full potential. That's why I now have the urge to upgrade and build a dedicated test bed for reviewing PC components. But not for now, as I just got a new camera and my budget is depleted. So with all that being said, the AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT is a pretty decent card that can perform quite well and has significant improvements compared to previous generation AMD cards, thanks to the completely new architecture. But my advice is to check AIB cards and see how well they can improve the card in terms of thermals and sound levels, as the reference card is quite loud and still gets toasty, especially after longer sustained load. Now, if you're only after a powerful card for serious gaming without other bells and whistles, not to mention a lot more cheaper, then this card should be a good option. And there you have it guys, thank you for watching. Make sure to check the full article linked below. Huge thanks to AMD for allowing this to happen. I know this is not a gaming peripheral, more specifically keyboard that you guys are used to on this channel, but I just really want to explore more than that. With that said, please let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. I spent a lot of time and effort making this and I really enjoyed this and I've learned a lot as well. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you like this, and see you next time. Have a great day.